Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful layered SVG for Hanukkah. This is a really pretty design and I love it because it's got two different shades of gold in it, which means it really sparkles in the light and looks really fancy and luxurious. Let's find out how to get the free SVG and then how to make it. You can download the free cutting file for this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs or follow the link in the description of this video to go straight to the download page. The download comes in a zip folder and you need to unzip this before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded the folder and unzipped it, it's time to upload the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then go to Upload over on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse, or you can drag and drop the file in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder, and then the file to upload is the one which starts SVG. If you choose any of the other ones, then they won't upload properly in Cricut Design Space. So I'm going to choose that one which starts SVG and drag and drop it in, and then it should look like this with all of the layers one on top of the other. If yours looks different and you see the layers next to each other instead, that means you've accidentally uploaded the wrong file type. So click Cancel and then try again and make sure you choose the one which starts SVG. Go ahead and press Upload, and then when it's uploaded, it will appear in your recent uploads here. Click on it to get the green border and then press Add to Canvas. This is how the design looks, and you can see all of the layers down the right hand side. Now for this design, if you wanted to cut it without the background, then you can do that. So if you wanted to do that, go over to the Layers panel and then click the little eye icon next to the bottom 3 layers, and that will hide them so they won't cut, and then you'll be able to just cut this without the background. However, I am going to put mine on there. And then one other thing you can do is that this actually uses 2 shades of gold for the candlestick. So if you don't have 2 shades of gold, you might want to change the colors around. To do that, press Color Sync over here on the top right. And even though it is 2 layers, one on top of the other, if you cut them both from the same shade of gold, it will still look really nice because that top layer is just giving it that little bit of detail. So because you'll have the depth of the 2 different bits stuck on top of each other, even if it is the same color of gold, it will still look great. So to do that, just choose one of the gold layers and click and drag it onto the other one. It looks a bit weird on the screen because we're looking at it in 2 dimensions, but once it's cut out and stuck together, it will still look great. However, I'm going to do mine in the 2 different colors, so I've just undone that, and then I'm going to resize it. To resize, click on the design, and then look over here in the width and height boxes. You want to make sure this little padlock icon is closed. If it's open, then click on it to close it. I am going to make mine as tall as it will go on A4 paper, which is 7.75 inches. So then press Enter, and the width changed in proportion. So my width is bigger, that's now 8.5 something. That's okay because I've just got my maximum size on the shorter side as 7.75, which is that maximum for A4. All right, let's click Make It and have a look. To change the paper size, go into the drop down here. I use A4 as I live in England, and that is what we mostly have. 12 by 12 inch paper is really expensive, so I stick to A4. You do need to do it for every single color. So I'm just going in here, and you can see that this was the maximum size. I wouldn't have been able to go any taller than that on these layers. So just a couple more to change, and then that's all ready. When you're happy with how everything is looking, click Continue, connect to your Cricut machine, and get everything cut out from cardstock. I've cut out all of my layers from cardstock, and then I've just roughly laid them in order so that I can check I'm happy with all of the colours and that I haven't accidentally missed anything. I've used 2 shades of gold for the candle holder, I'm not sure if my camera will quite pick it up, but they've got a lovely shine to them. So this one's more of a kind of shiny gold, more vibrant, and then the one on top has a matte brushed effect to it. So even though they are both gold, when they're one on top of the other, you can still see all of the details, and it does look like two different shades. So that's a really nice touch to add a little bit of luxury to your design. Alright, so as with all layered designs, we want to start at the bottom and work our way upwards. So I'm going to move all of these layers apart until I've just got the bottom two left. And the bottom two is these ones. So you've got your very base layer, which is everything filled in, and then the one on top is the blue layer that has the border around the edge. We're going to use foam squares for this layer to give it a little bit of dimension and to pop out these leaves or laurels from the background. These are the foam squares I'm using. These are from Dot and Dab, and you can maybe see they're quite big, so I'm going to need to cut them smaller with a pair of scissors just so that I can fit them into all of the little gaps, and it means I won't need to use as many, but any foam squares will do. You can see these ones are ones I've already cut in half just with a regular pair of scissors. So I'm going to turn this layer upside down and then add my foam squares. You want to add a good amount so that it's going to have a really, really good stick, especially because we're not going to be able to fit the foam into these little border pieces. So you need to make sure the rest of the design has lots in it that it will enable those little borders to keep the dimension without sagging downwards. So I highly recommend putting some foam into all of these little leaf bits and the candles that are on the edges, as it's going to help give stability to the rest of the design. It's going to take me a little while to do this. So with the magic of video editing, I'll speed this bit up. As well as putting the foam squares around the edge, you want to make sure you've got some in the middle as well, in these bits, and also in the candles. And that's because if you don't put anything in there, it won't have anything to keep it level under the weight of itself, because this is quite a big bit of cardstock. So by putting the foam in the candles and the flames, it means they're going to be nice and rigid and sturdy, and you'll get a nice even stick without any doming down of the cardstock. I may be going a little bit over the top with the amount of foam squares I'm putting on here. You probably don't quite need as many, but I'd rather put a few too many on than not enough. So I think just a couple more, and then we're good to go. So next I can peel the little bits of paper off of the back of all of this foam, and that reveals all of the stickiness underneath, so then it'll be ready for me to attach to that base layer. That's all my little pieces. Now I can bring this back into shot, and then what I'm going to do is use this bottom bit as my guide of where to stick it, and also the edges of the leaves. So I'm just managing to stick it to my fingers. Oh, dropped it. Let's try again. All right, so my top tip for these designs is line it up where you think you want it to go, and then gently drop it down. So I haven't put any pressure on this yet. I've just gently put it into place, which means that if I wasn't happy with where everything's positioned, I could pick this up and take it off again without damaging anything, because it isn't actually stuck yet. But looking at it, that seems pretty spot on. So I'm going to push down to seal all of those foam squares. The next layer is this darker blue, just going to sit in there like that. And I think for this one I will also use my foam squares. So let's turn it upside down and grab the foam. You could glue this one if you wanted to. If you maybe don't want as much dimension, then gluing this one would work just fine too. But I like to have a lot of 3D effect, so I tend to use quite a lot of foam. If you watched many of my previous videos, you will probably be aware of that. Once again, I'm making sure I've got my foam in all of these little candles so that it's going to give me a nice sturdy stick with all of them having something to rest on. I think if you didn't put the foam in these candle tips, then once all the other layers are added on top, they'll just end up a bit heavy and it will dome down a bit, which will take the effect away that we're going for. So just making sure I've got lots in there and also in all of the middle pieces. I've got one bit stuck to my finger, so just choose somewhere to put it. Okay, now I can peel the tops off again to get all of that stickiness revealed. Now let's stick this on. And once again, I'm going to use that bottom bit for lining it up. And gently drop it down. I'm happy with that, so push down to stick the foam squares. Alright, so next we've got the orange parts, the flames of the candles. It's quite nice, this design, because all the candle bits are connected. You don't need to stick all of those little flames on individually. Because I want it to look like the candle flames are popping out from the background, this will be yet another foam square layer. In terms of my layered designs, this one's probably a bit more on the complex side, just because all of the little pieces are quite thin, so you do need to be careful when adding the foam that you don't go outside the edge of any of the pieces, otherwise you'll see that foam when you turn it over, and we don't want that. This one's a little bit fragile. Oh, I haven't taken the backing off of that one. This one's a bit fragile because all of the little candles, you can see they move about. So just be a little bit extra careful that you don't bend any of them. And again, we're lining up along that bottom bit. And I'm sticking it to my fingers again. So let's line that up. And I'm also using that top candle. This one will be tricky because these candles are going to want to stick. As they fall, so you might need to move them around a little bit. So you can see that's not quite right. So I'm just going to line up those flames because I know the middle bit's lined up. So it's just gently unpicking all of the flame bits and then dropping them down again so that they're lying flat. That side's okay. And then push down to seal. Next, we've got the yellow parts of the flames. And this one is going to be a glue layer, you will be pleased to hear, so we can have a little break from all those teeny tiny pieces of foam squares. The glue I like to use is called Kalal. It's really nice because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some glues can do. And then I put it in these needle tip applicator bottles. These have teeny tiny tips on them, which means getting the glue into all of these little spaces is going to be super easy. Other great glues that are more readily available in the USA are Barely Art Glue and Art Glitter Glue. So let's turn this upside down, and then I'm going to get my glue. You want to make sure you put glue into all of those candle flames so that they stick nicely, because they're quite fragile on the edge there. You know, they're quite narrow at the bottom where they join on, so we don't want them to accidentally get torn off. So glue in there will prevent that. See how easy this is with these needle tip bottles. And then now our only real point of reference is that bottom bit. So you want to use that one for lining it up. Again, this one's a little bit wibbly wobbly. Luckily the glue dries clear, so if I need to splodge it about a little bit, it won't notice, but actually that went on pretty well. Okay. The nice thing about glue is you do have that wiggle room to move things about a little bit. I'm happy with how that's looking, so let's move on to the next layer, which is the candles, and this one will be another glue layer. So let's turn it around again. This one's a bit hard to see because it's a white bit of card on my white background. I'll just quickly whiz the glue around here. And then bring this back. And again, lining up along that bottom. Gently drop that into place and then wiggle it so it's exactly where it's supposed to go. Right, just 2 layers left, which is our gold for the candle holder. So for this first one, to give it a bit of pop from the candles, I'm going to use my foam squares. This will be the last foam square layer, you will be pleased to hear. So again on this one, be really careful that none of your foam goes outside the cardstock, otherwise you'll be able to see it when you turn it over. There we go, happy with that. And then there's one last layer to add the detail on there, and this will be a glue one. This is definitely a layer where I'm glad I've got these needle tip applicator bottles, because it means I can go around all of these edges really easily and not make any mess on my work surface. The bottles let out just a teeny tiny bit of glue, so you know you're not going to put too much on there and it will get into all those details. So just line it up. And I want to push down really gently on this one, as I don't want any of that glue smushing out the sides. So just a gentle tap. And there we go, our layered design of our menorah for Hanukkah is all finished. And if I just tilt this into my camera light, so you can see hopefully that gorgeous shine from using the gold card. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it looks really realistic, and it's also really, really luxurious and special with all of that gold. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a layered SVG for Hanukkah. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. Thank you for watching. Bye!